everybody to our interview today. My name is Erin, and I am on our Janome Life blog as @Janome Girl. And I would like to introduce you to Amanda Brown. She is our new educator in Eastern Canada, and we are so excited to have her on board. Welcome, Amanda.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, everyone.
So I'm super excited. This is the first time we're doing a video interview. So I'm hoping that if this goes well, that you will get to meet all of our educators in person through an interview process, and also our artisans. So this is really exciting to be able to just to see everyone face to face and to look at what they're excited about. So I have some questions prepared. So the first question I want to ask Amanda is, can you tell us a little bit about yourself as a person?
Yeah, I live in a small town outside of Hamilton, Ontario, and I live in a little community, but we keep on exploding. And I'm married. It's been forever, I feel like maybe 15 years, but it feels like forever. And we have two lovely daughters, and my oldest is 9 and my youngest is 7. They're getting so old. And they are great fun. And basically I sew all the time and I hoard fabric. In fact, my friends come to me when they need fabric because they know I have way too much. So
That's awesome.
That's what I mostly spend my day doing, playing with fabric.
That's awesome. I love fabric too. I'm very tactile, so I really love to feel fabric, and I love going into a quilt store, but I also really like to shop online. Don't tell my husband. It's so much fun. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I try to hide the packages.
Right? Like in grocery bags?
Yeah, just anywhere else. It's just like, okay, they get to the house, they need to disappear before anyone gets home to see them.
The best thing that I like to do is, if I'm buying fabric for garments, is actually take them out and put them in the wash right away.
Oh, for sure.
Then it's like,
then it's
well, this is just laundry. Totally laundry. That's really funny. So Amanda, what is your earliest sewing memory? Lots of people talk about how they got started sewing and what sort of made them interested in sewing. So what's your earliest memory of sewing?
Well, I remember sewing with my grandma, and we were making Barbie clothes. And I only remember like this little part where we'd sewn the pants and then we were trying to turn them inside out, like so they're the right way. And it just was taking forever. Like that's my first vivid memory, is that I was sewing with grandma and we were struggling. But I probably was only like 6 or 7, so I was really young. But the next time I remember really sewing was in grade 7. We still traveled to the local high school to do like home ec kind of stuff. It was still going on. And we had a sewing class and we were making these really cute, simple bags. And it just had like a strap, very simple to make. So I remember cutting out the first part of it and leaving it down on the table, and then cutting out the second part and cutting right up the middle of the first part that was already cut. And that's really, that was really indicative of how my sewing career will go. If I can make a mistake, I will. And if I have to redo it 5 times, I'm going to have to. Like, it's just always, I get too excited and I work too quickly. So I'm always trying to tell myself, slow down.
So would you say as a sewist that you're a perfectionist? Like you would go back and unpick until you got it right?
It really depends. Like when I'm working on a project like a bag or garments where those little things really will show in the final fit and how it works, then yes. But in my quilting, I'm a big believer in just everything should have a mistake in it. So you place the fabric the wrong way. You know what? That's handmade. I like showing those mistakes. It doesn't always have to be perfect points and everything being pristine.
Well, you know, there's no such thing as a quilt police, right? So I think sometimes we are our own worst critics when it comes to looking at something we've made, right? Because we can pick out where the mistakes are. But if you show it to somebody, they don't have any idea.
Yeah, like if you can't see it by driving by, you shouldn't worry about that mistake.
I was talking to a seamstress one day and she said, oh, when I'm sewing, you know, I just have to make sure it looks good from 40 feet.
Yeah.
You know, up close doesn't matter, but from 40 feet, like a dance costume or a theater costume or something like that, she's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, for sure.
So you are new to the Janome family. So tell us, why do you love Janome?
Okay, I've had a bunch of different sewing machines and I've had experience with a ton of different brands. But really what I like is when you get a Janome, you're getting quality no matter at your price point. So my daughter wanted to start sewing, so I got her her first sewing machine a couple years ago, and I got her a little 1122. Like it's tiny, but it has exactly what you need to start sewing. It's a great beginner machine. So I got it and I ended up taking it with me traveling, and I used that thing to make a couple quilts. So it was affordable and
Mhm.
basic, but it does everything that I needed it to do. And it's just quality even at that price point. And then as you get going higher up, everything else is just you get what you need right from the start. You don't have to go out and buy extra accessories. Like Janome really thinks about what you need and what you're going to be using it for, and they provide quality in all parts of it. So really, that's what really sold me on Janome, is just that it's so reliable.
That's awesome. I love it. So if you could have a sewing superpower, we see lots of in social media, we talk about, oh, well, my superpower is, keeping my children alive, like that kind of stuff, right? So if you
That's a
could
good one.
have a sewing superpower, what would it be?
Okay, so I thought about this, and really for me, I struggle with quilting my quilts. So it's getting
Mhm.
a quilt through that harp space. And if I could have a superpower, it would be to like be able to origami my quilts so that they just slide through every time, no matter what size it is. Like you can give me a machine with the biggest harp space, and I will
Mhm.
take the tiniest quilt, and I will still be struggling. Like that's the hardest part for me.
And I think thinking about that when quilting, like you sometimes have to spend just as much time, organizing your setup before you can
Oh, for
actually
sure.
quilt, right? So I think
Yeah,
that's a
for
great
sure.
superpower. So what is your favorite thing about sewing?
Oh, I love the creative process, like especially with quilting. I dream up a quilt and then sometimes I put it down on paper and sometimes I wing it, which is always interesting. And I take this big piece of beautiful fabric and I cut it up into smaller chunks and then I piece it back together into something beautiful. Like that process to me is just so satisfying.
And do you like that you can see instantly what you've created?
Yeah, like it's just as you're going, you're building and the
Yeah.
excitement builds. There's only ever like a couple times in the process where I'm like, what did I do? No, I think I made the wrong choice. But like as you work through it, you see the beauty again. Like you have to trust that
Hmm.
process.
Definitely. And I like that you said that you do have to trust the process sometimes because you can see something and I want to make that, but then when you're starting to make it, it's like, oh, I don't know if this is going to be right, but then it turns out how you wanted it to, and that's just such an empowering feeling. I love it.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
I know that you are new to our family of educators. So, as an educator, we do get to play with machines
We sure
and
do.
that kind of thing. So, thinking back over your sewing experience and even up until now with the machines that you just got, what is your favorite Janome machine?
My goodness. So I have been spoiled and I'm using the M7 Continental and I don't think I can go back to anything else. Like it is just so nice. Like the when I set it up to do some quilting, when I turn it back on, it knows which foot I have on and which plate I have on, so it's right back to the right setting, so I'm not messing things up. The harp space is huge, like it's just, and it's so quiet. Like my studio is between my two kids' bedrooms, and I often don't sew after they go to bed because it does disrupt them. Like as much as I
Mhm.
like to say it doesn't keep them up, I think it does. But with the M7, it's so quiet. Like I can't hear it outside my studio. Like I ran it one day, pressed the start button and ran out, closed the door. I was like, I can't hear it at all. Like it's so nice.
That's awesome. I think a lot of people are really loving this new M7 Continental. And I think it's a great machine to work with. So tell me, how do you love the feed dogs and how they're set up?
Okay, so I'm quilting a giant quilt right now, and
Mhm.
it's like a Christmas sampler for my cousin. And don't worry, it's not late for her. She wanted it for this Christmas, and she wanted it big, so I'm making it
Mhm.
huge, and I'm trying to put it through the machine, which it's going really well. But
Yeah.
somewhere along my basting process, my fabric has kind of slipped a lot, and but the feed dogs are taking care of it. Like everything is going through, not one wrinkle, not one like fold over. Like it's
Awesome.
magical. Like I couldn't imagine if this was on a different machine, I would have had to taken it off, rebasted, and go back to it. But this, it just it's magic.
That's awesome. I love it. So, one of the things that people love to see is we love show and tell. And as quilters and sewists, we love to show off things that we've made. So, do you have a couple things handy that you can share with us that you're really proud of?
I sure do. So first up, let me step out of the frame here. So this quilt in the background, this is what I call my June quilt, and I've made it in like 4 or 5 different versions, and it's just
Hmm.
like a nice baby size, and it's almost all just regular piecing, except for these units here are paper pieced.
Okay.
But it's just, I don't know, it's more modern and but still kind of traditional.
It's
So
beautiful. I love the
thank you.
stripe part in the
Oh,
center.
I am a sucker for stripes. Like if I could put a stripe and a floral in anything, I will. It's just my thing.
Awesome.
Okay. And
Awesome.
then for a while, I was stuck on kaleidoscope quilts.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah. So these are all paper pieced.
Hmm.
And I just typically do little ones like this, but they still take
Yep.
forever. But this was one of my favorite versions. I just loved the colors, and it was based on
Beautiful.
um, I think a floral bouquet from a wedding shoot that one of my friends had done, and I just loved the colors that the florist put together and pulled them out into this quilt. So
So tell us
that's
how you quilted that one.
okay. Can I don't know if you how close it can bring it. So it's just straight stitched,
Oh,
like
cool.
in lines.
Yeah.
I tend to go that way. I just like the texture that it adds. So a lot of my quilts are just straight stitch in lines in various distances apart.
That's beautiful. And
Thank
so
you.
are you on team hand binding or team machine binding?
Oh, this one's hand bound. I
Woo!
like both. Um, so when things get a little bit crazy and I just need to get things done, I'll machine bind. But if I have time, I will sit down and it's my favorite thing to watch TV or watch a couple movies and just sit there with a quilt on your lap as you're binding it. Like
Mhm.
it's my favorite thing for sure. All right.
That's
And now,
awesome. I Sorry, go ahead.
so I just have one other thing to show. So I started getting
Okay.
into some garment
Oh,
sewing. So I
cute.
don't know how, can you see that all? It's just like a tank
Yeah.
top, but see, it's
Uh-huh.
floral. This is the Rifle Paper Company floral in a rayon, and it's just like a
It's
racer
beautiful.
back. Thank you.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so is that for you or is that for one of the kids?
it's all for me
Awesome.
though. I tend
Awesome.
to
I love
not
it.
I tend to not make a lot of things for the kids because they change their minds. And then I spend all this time on it, and then they wear it 3 times, and
Yeah.
they're like, and I'm like,
I
forget
don't
you.
like it anymore. I totally know that. I have a 13-year-old daughter. I
Yeah,
totally get it. Yeah.
yeah,
So you had a couple other projects that you really love, but they are out visiting other people. So I'm going to
yeah.
put some pictures in, but if you want to tell us about a couple of those things, and then I'll put the pictures
Okay,
in as well.
awesome. Okay, so the first one is a floral quilt, but it's a 3D floral quilt. Um, and the background you'll see it's all chenille cut, and then I made individual petals with fabric, and I attached
Mhm.
them to the front of it, in front of it, and made a beautiful like bouquet
Oh, cool.
hours. This next quilt, it's really bright and fun.
Hmm.
Um, But the cool part about this one was that I bought a quilt on the buy and sell. They just said, I found this quilt. It needs a lot of repair. And so I went and picked it up. And then when I was looking at it, I realized that there was a hidden quilt inside of it, that someone had
Cool.
quilted over top of an old quilt, like how they
Mhm.
used to. Like a quilt gets threadbare, then you add a
Yeah,
new layer. So I took off the top layer because it was nice, but
yeah.
the inner layer was so old. Like I would say it was over 120 years old, but it was still so modern in the design. So I
Cool.
recreated it in my version of it so that I could actually really treasure what our ancestors in the quilting world have done, because the old one is just too old to take out in
Yeah,
hand
totally.
time.
Well, and when you're talking about vintage fibers and that kind of thing, they weren't made like they are
No.
today, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes they like fall apart in your fingers because the fabric is so fragile.
Yeah,
That's really
definitely.
cool. I'm really excited to
Yeah.
see those pictures. So just before we sign off and get back to our regularly scheduled lives, what are you looking forward to as being a Janome educator? So I know this is a spur of the moment question. So if
Oh,
you need a
that's
minute,
okay.
take a minute, but what are you looking forward to as an educator?
Um, Really, it's getting to know other creative people and getting out and meeting people and helping people understand what they need in a machine. And really, to me, that's the biggest thing. Is I love um, being inspired by other people and seeing what they're doing and what they're using their machines for. And so this position is just a really great avenue for me to get out there and see what's going on in the sewing world around us.
That's so exciting. Well, we are definitely excited to have you on our team. We're looking forward to reading your blog posts and seeing your videos and all the things you come up with. So thank you so
Perfect.
much for taking the time to chat with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
So
Erin.
I will let you get back to your day.
Oh, thank you. It was great talking with you.